Jackson Reed had never been inside a courtroom, especially not one on a planet filled with glowing towers, floating judges, and insect-looking lawyers. He was just a human mechanic from Earth, fixing spaceships, cleaning engines, and making toast in the morning. That was his life. Now he stood inside the grand galactic courtroom of the Veritari Empire, blinking under bright purple lights, surrounded by strange alien creatures. Some had 3 eyes, others had wings. One even had tentacles instead of legs. All of them were watching him. He had no idea why. A giant insectoid judge slammed a crystal hammer on the shining podium. "Silence! The trial of Jackson Reed of Earth begins now." Jackson looked at the translator earpiece in his ear. He wasn't sure if it was broken. "Trial? What trial? I didn't do anything wrong." A tall alien with silver skin and black robes stepped forward. "You saved the Consul's warship last cycle, did you not?" Jackson blinked. "Yeah, I repaired a big ship drifting near Sector 9. It was leaking plasma, looked serious. I didn't know it belonged to anyone important." There was a loud gasp across the courtroom. The insect judge leaned forward. "Under Veritari law, saving the ship of a ruling consul without permission is a life-binding act. Such an act means you have proposed marriage to the consul's family." Jackson nearly fell backward. "I what?" The courtroom was silent. All eyes turned to the noble platform where Consul Vireth sat. He was tall and had 4 arms, long robes, and glowing golden eyes. Beside him stood 3 very different-looking women. "Meet my granddaughters," the consul said in a deep voice. "Thala, Miri, Zira." Jackson stared at them. Thala had dark armor, sharp eyes, and a sword strapped to her back. She looked like she could punch a tank. Miri wore a lab coat, had glowing glasses, and held a small blinking device. She looked like a scientist or a tech genius. Zyra wore bright colors, had short purple hair, and kept blowing bubble gum. She winked at him. They all stared back at Jackson like he was some kind of zoo animal. "This is a mistake," Jackson said quickly. "Where I come from, we don't propose marriage by fixing stuff." The judge buzzed loudly. "Earth culture is not Veritari culture. The court has reviewed your actions. You boarded the consul's vessel, repaired its heart core, and risked death. That is a noble proposal by our laws." Jackson turned to his side. "Where's my lawyer?" "I need a lawyer." An Earth ambassador sitting nearby raised a weak hand. Jackson, technically they're right. You kind of proposed by accident." He groaned. "This can't be real." The consul stood tall. "To dishonor this verdict is to insult my family and the Empire. You will marry my granddaughters or face exile to the gas mines of Vorox Prime." Jackson scratched his head. "I don't even have a girlfriend on Earth, and now you want me to marry 3 alien women?" Zira laughed. "Better than being alone, isn't it?" Thala crossed her arms. "I do not need a mate." Miri sighed. "This is unscientific, but rules are rules." The judge slammed the hammer again. "The court has spoken. Jackson Reed is now bound to the House of Vireth by galactic law. The bonding rituals will begin tomorrow." Jackson stared up at the judge. "Can I at least get breakfast first?" That night, Jackson was taken to a palace on a moon called Arcana 3. It floated above green clouds and glowing rivers. Aliens in suits guided him through shiny halls with floating lanterns and music that sounded like whales singing. He was given a giant room with 10 beds, a robot assistant, and a menu with 3,000 alien food items. "I miss toast," he mumbled. The robot offered him a cube that smelled like old socks. He waved it away. Soon, the 3 granddaughters entered. Jackson stood quickly. "Hey, look, I don't want to be rude, but this whole marriage thing? I'm not ready for it." Zira sat on the table. "Relax. We're not marrying you yet. We have a week of bonding tests. If we all hate each other, there's a loophole." "There is?" Jackson asked hopefully. Miri nodded. "Yes, but only if all 4 of us agree the match is impossible." Thala narrowed her eyes. "You are weak. But you did save our grandfather's ship. That earns you some respect. Do not waste it. Jackson gave a weak smile. Cool. So, what now? Zira grinned. Now we mess with you. The next morning, Jackson woke up to loud alarms. Thala stood over him holding a training spear. Combat training. You must prove you are not useless. I fix engines, not fight people, he groaned. She threw the spear at him. He barely dodged. That was a test. You passed. Barely. Later, Miri took him to her lab. Can you fix this drone? Jackson looked at it. The circuits were fried, the frame cracked. He smiled. Give me 5 minutes. 4 minutes later, the drone was flying again. Miri stared at him. That should have taken 2 hours. He shrugged. It's just wires and logic, like solving a puzzle. Zira grabbed him later and dragged him outside. Want to fly my sky bike? I don't have a license, Jackson yelled as they zipped over a canyon at 300 kilometers an hour. You do now, she shouted, laughing. By the end of the day, Jackson collapsed on his bed. Being engaged to alien royalty is exhausting, he whispered. The robot hovered nearby. Would you like your toast now, Master Jackson? He smiled. Yes, please. That night, the granddaughters sat together watching a screen. Jackson had fallen asleep, a piece of toast in his hand. Thala looked at him. He is not strong, but he is brave. Miri adjusted her glasses. His brain is fast. He solved 3 puzzles I couldn't. Zira grinned. He's weird. I like weird. They were silent for a while. Maybe this bonding week won't be so boring, Miri said quietly. But in the shadows of the palace, a spy reported to a dark figure. The human is bonding with the heirs. The marriage might happen. The dark figure hissed. That cannot be allowed. If Earth joins the Virith family, the balance of power shifts. Shall we proceed with the plan? The spy asked. Yes, said the figure. Before the week ends, the human must disappear. Jackson Reed sat on a soft red chair inside the consul's private palace. The walls were gold and silver. The floor was made of smooth blue stone. Everything looked expensive and alien. Jackson looked down at his simple earth clothes and sighed. Don't belong here, he whispered. Just 2 days ago, he was fixing an old spaceship engine in a space station near Jupiter. Now he was being forced to marry 3 alien princesses because of a law he didn't even know existed. The door opened with a soft whoosh. In walked Thala, the warrior granddaughter. Her boots made sharp sounds as she walked. She stood tall and proud, wearing dark armor. I will test you now, she said. Jackson blinked. Test me? I haven't even had breakfast yet. She tossed a long training spear at him. Fight! He caught the spear clumsily. I fix things, not people. She attacked fast. Jackson screamed and jumped back. He blocked one strike by accident, then another. He stumbled, slipped, and rolled out of the way. Thala stopped and stared at him. You are not strong, but you are quick when you're scared. Jackson sat on the floor, breathing hard. Yeah. Fear is a great workout. Later, Miri invited him to her lab. The lab was full of strange machines, blinking lights, and floating tools. I need you to fix this, she said, handing him a small, round device. Jackson looked at it. The wires were twisted and smoke had come out of one side. What is it? He asked. A learning cube. I use it to train young minds. It broke last week. Jackson sat down with a toolkit. He didn't have fancy scanners, but he had something better. Human hands and a good eye. After 5 minutes, the cube lit up. Done, he said. Miri leaned closer, eyes wide. That was fast. It's just circuits and logic, he said. You just have to listen to what the machine is trying to say. Miri looked impressed. You think machines talk? Jackson grinned. All the time. You just have to speak their language. That evening, Zyra dragged him out of his room. "Come on, boring boy," she said. "Time for real fun." "Where are we going?" Jackson asked. She pulled him onto a flying bike and zoomed out of the palace, laughing wildly. The sky was orange and 2 moons hung above them. They flew over jungles, rivers, and sparkling mountains. "This is beautiful," Jackson said. "Yep," Zyra replied. "I used to sneak out here when I was a kid, before they started watching me like a bird in a cage." "Do you feel trapped?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, "Sometimes." The next day, a huge dinner was held in the palace. It was part of the bonding week. Dozens of important aliens came to watch Jackson and the princesses eat together. Long tables were filled with strange dishes, floating fruits, sizzling meats, and glowing drinks. A singing plant in the center made soft music. Jackson sat between Zyra and Miri. Thala sat across from them. He poked at a jelly-like food. "What's this?" "Try it," Miri said. "It changes taste based on your mood." Jackson took a bite. "It tastes like toast." Zyra laughed. "You really miss toast, don't you?" Jackson smiled. "You have no idea." Suddenly, something caught Thala's eye. A servant in the corner moved oddly, too stiff, too slow. She stood up quickly, just as the servant pulled out a small weapon. "Get down!" she shouted. A red dart shot toward Jackson. He ducked, and Thala blocked it with a silver tray. Guards rushed in. The fake servant tried to run but was caught. "Poison dart," Miri said after scanning it. "Would have killed him in seconds." Zyra was furious. "Who would try to kill him at a bonding dinner?" Thala narrowed her eyes. "Someone who fears this marriage." That night, Jackson sat alone in the garden under the stars. The leaves of the alien trees glowed soft blue. Thala walked up beside him and sat down. "You fought well with the spear," she said. "I fought like a chicken." Jackson replied, "But you lived," she said. "And you saved our grandfather's ship. That still matters." Jackson looked at her. "Do you still think I'm weak?" Thala shook her head slowly. "I think you are different. And that is not always a bad thing." In another part of the palace, Miri was scanning the poison dart. "This tech isn't local," she told Zyra. "Someone from off-world sent this assassin." "Another noble house?" Zyra asked. "Most likely. They want to stop the marriage." "Well," Zyra said with fire in her voice, "they'll have to go through us." The next morning, the palace staff prepared for another bonding challenge. The granddaughters stood with Jackson in the courtyard. "The next ritual," said Thala, "is the climb of trust." Jackson looked up at a tall tower made of smooth stone. "Do I have to fly up?" he asked. "No," Mary said. "You must. Climb with us. No machines. Only hands, feet, and trust." Zyra grinned. "Race you to the top." They began the climb together. The wall was steep. The handholds were slippery. Jackson struggled at first, but Miri guided him where to place his hands. Thala gave him a push when he slipped. Zyra stayed close, shouting silly encouragements. "You call that climbing?" she laughed. "My grandmother climbs faster." Halfway up, Jackson looked down. The ground was far below. "I shouldn't have looked down," he groaned. "Don't look back," Thala said. "Look at us." He looked. Up. 3 alien women helping him reach the top. He smiled and kept going. At the top, they stood on a small platform. The wind was strong. The view was endless. Jungles, oceans, glowing cities. They held hands in a circle. "You passed the climb," Miri said. "And we passed it with you." Jackson felt pride in his chest. He had come a long way from Earth, from fixing ships and drinking coffee alone. Now he was standing on a tower with 3 alien princesses, strong, smart, and kind. He still missed toast, but maybe this wasn't so bad. Far below, in the shadows, a dark figure watched through a spy device. "The bonding is going too well," the voice said. "We must act soon, or the human will truly become one of them." Another voice replied, cold and sharp. "Prepare the final plan. He will not make it to the wedding alive." The spaceship floated gently above Mount Velcara, a tall alien mountain with blue snow and glowing trees. It was one of the most dangerous places on Arcana 3. The wind was strong. The air was cold. The cliffs were sharp like blades. Jackson Reed stood near the ship's door, wearing a thick coat made of Veritari fur. He held a metal hiking stick in one hand and a worried look on his face. "So, we're really doing this?" he asked. "Yes," Thala said firmly. She was already wearing her climbing gear and had 2 blades strapped to her back. "This is part of the bonding ritual," Miri explained. "Climbing Mount Velcara shows strength, teamwork, and trust. If we make it to the top, the stars will recognize our union." Zira stretched her arms and smiled. "Sounds fun and dangerous. I like it." Jackson looked up at the steep path ahead. "What if I slip and fall?" Thala replied. "Then we catch you." He nodded slowly. "No pressure." The group started their climb. The path was narrow and covered with glowing snow. Strange animal footprints crossed their trail. The air grew thinner with every step. Jackson's breath turned to mist. Zira jumped ahead, dancing over the rocks. "Come on, slowpokes!" Miri walked carefully, scanning the rocks with her portable scanner. "There's energy below the surface. Magnetic fields are active. Watch your steps." Thala stayed behind Jackson, always watching his back. "You're guarding me?" he asked. "Yes," Thala replied. "After the poison attack, we don't take chances." Jackson glanced around. "You think someone might try something here?" Thala didn't answer, but her eyes scanned the mountain carefully. Hours passed. They stopped to rest under a crystal tree. Its branches glowed gently, and small, warm lights floated down like soft snowflakes. Jackson sat on a flat rock and rubbed his legs. "I haven't climbed anything this hard since my school field trip to Earth's Grand Canyon." Miri handed him a nutrient bar. "Eat this. It helps with fatigue." Jackson bit into it. It tasted like cardboard. "I miss toast," he muttered. Zira laughed. "You and your toast. You talk about it more than anything else." Jackson smiled. "It's the best food on Earth. Simple, warm, crunchy. Makes everything feel okay." Thala raised an eyebrow. "It is just burned bread." "Exactly," Jackson said. "Burned bread? That saves lives." The girls laughed. For a moment, they forgot the danger, but danger hadn't forgotten them. Far behind, 2 dark figures followed them from the shadows. One was tall with a long rifle. The other had a cloaking device and moved like a shadow. They were hired assassins from the House of Sereth, enemies of the Consul. Their mission: stop the marriage. Kill the human. They spoke in hushed voices. "Target is ahead. The human climbs with the heirs. We strike before sunset." The group reached a narrow bridge made of natural stone. It stretched over a deep canyon. Below, wind howled like a monster. Jackson took a deep breath. "That looks unsafe." "Stay close," Miri said. They began to cross slowly. Halfway across, a blast echoed through the air. The stones shook, pieces cracked and fell. "Get down!" Thala shouted. Jackson dropped to the bridge. A red beam hit the stone near his head. "They're shooting at us!" Zira yelled. Thala pulled out her blades. "Enemies on the ridge!" Zira ducked behind a crystal rock. "I see one with a rifle!" Miri activated a shield bubble. It covered Jackson just in time as another beam hit. "Stay inside the bubble!" Miri shouted. Jackson crawled toward her. "What about you guys?" Thala was already moving. She sprinted across the broken bridge, jumping between cracks, spinning her blades. Zira took out a small orb, threw it, and it exploded in a flash of light, blinding the sniper. The other assassin uncloaked and jumped down from the cliff. He aimed a shock spear at Jackson. Mary blocked it with her shield, but the impact threw her back. The assassin charged again. Jackson saw something shiny in the snow. It was his dropped metal hiking stick. He grabbed it and swung hard. It hit the assassin's knee. The alien screamed and fell back. Before he could recover, Thala landed beside him and knocked him out with one punch. The sniper tried to flee, but Zira jumped from the ridge and tackled him off the ledge. A hover belt slowed their fall. Moments later, she floated back up with the attacker tied in vines. "Got him," she said, smiling. "He talks a lot when upside down." They tied the two assassins to a glowing tree. Miri checked her scanner. "They work for the House of Sareth. Paid mercenaries. This was a planned hit." Thala looked angry. "This is the second attack in a week." Jackson rubbed his head. "So I'm really that important now?" "You are the link between Earth and our family," Miri said. "That makes you a target." Zira looked at Jackson seriously. "You still want to go through with this? You could walk away." Jackson thought for a moment. Then he smiled weakly. "I didn't come this far to quit now. Besides, someone needs to introduce toast to the galaxy." They continued climbing. The path grew steeper. Snow turned into ice. The air became thin. Jackson stumbled once. Thala caught him. "I'm fine," he said. "You're freezing," she replied, taking off her outer coat and putting it over him. He looked at her. "Thanks. You know, you're nicer than you pretend to be." Thala looked away. "Only when necessary." Miri guided them using her map. Zyra sang silly songs to cheer everyone up. Finally, after hours of climbing, they reached the summit platform. It was a flat space near the top of the mountain, surrounded by ancient pillars and strange symbols. A small fire pit was lit in the center, and the sky above showed all the stars of the system. They made it. Jackson collapsed to the ground, gasping. "I need toast." The girls laughed again. Then Miri stepped forward. "This is the place. The ritual can begin." They each took their positions around the fire. A small crystal floated in the air. It glowed softly and spoke in an old voice. "Do you come willingly to form the bond of alliance and trust?" "I do," Jackson said. "We do," said Thala, Miri, and Zira together. "Then speak your truth." Jackson stood. "I'm not a warrior or a prince or anything special. I'm just a mechanic from Earth. I like engines, bad jokes, and toast. But I care. I protect people. I try. That's who I am." Thala stepped forward. "I vow to guard you, even if it costs me everything," Miri added. "I vow to learn with you, build with you, and grow together." Zira smiled. "And I vow to make life fun, even when it's hard." The crystal glowed brighter. "The bond is accepted. Let the stars remember this day." As they sat near the fire, Jackson pulled something from his backpack. A small, old, Earth-style toaster. He plugged it into Miri's portable battery. "What's that?" Thala asked. Jackson grinned. "I brought something special." He placed a piece of bread inside and waited. Moments later, the toaster popped. He handed each girl a slice. "Ladies, welcome to toast." They took bites. Zyra's eyes widened. "This is amazing," Miri nodded. "The texture is perfect." Thala stared at her slice. "I may have judged this too soon." They laughed together. Far above them, the stars twinkled softly, and below, in the shadows, new enemies began to whisper. The marriage was becoming real. The bond was strong, and some in the galaxy weren't ready for that. The glow from the crystal fire faded as the four new allies packed their gear. The cold wind bit at their faces, but Jackson Reed felt warmer than ever. For the first time since arriving in the Veritari Empire, he felt he belonged. But the mountain was not done with them yet. The next day, the trio of granddaughters led Jackson deep into a hidden cave near the summit. The walls were covered with ancient symbols, glowing faintly blue. This was the place for the final bonding ritual, a sacred ceremony known only to the Virith family. As they prepared the altar, Jackson noticed the tension in the air. "We're not alone," Thala said quietly, gripping her blades. Miri activated her scanners. Multiple life forms approaching, unknown signatures. Zira peeked into the dark entrance. "Looks like trouble." Before Jackson could react, shadowy figures rushed into the cave, dozens of heavily armed soldiers, faces hidden behind masks. The mercenaries from the house of Sareth had followed them. The leader stepped forward, voice cold. "The Consul's orders are clear. The human must be removed. This alliance will not happen," Thala growled, stepping between Jackson and the enemy. "We won't let you harm him." The battle erupted. Jackson was thrown into chaos. He ducked as lasers cut through the cave, rocks shattering nearby. He grabbed a fallen metal rod and swung wildly, barely hitting a masked soldier. Miri pulled out a small device, pressing buttons. Suddenly, the cave floor shifted. Panels slid open, revealing pits filled with glowing spikes. "Watch your step," she yelled. Thala fought fiercely, her blades flashing as she cut through attackers with strength and precision. Zyra dashed through the shadows, throwing stun grenades that exploded in bursts of bright light. Jackson stumbled and fell near a wall. Suddenly, a soldier aimed a shock baton at him. "Get away!" Thala shouted, rushing in and knocking the attacker aside. Jackson scrambled up, heart pounding. The fight turned desperate. The enemy soldiers were many, but the Granddaughters fought as one. Thala's armor took heavy hits but never faltered. Miri used her gadgets to disable weapons. Zyra's quick moves and distractions confused the attackers. Jackson, though not a fighter, found his courage. He noticed loose rocks on the cave ceiling and kicked one toward a support beam. The beam cracked. "Careful," Miri shouted. But before the beam collapsed, the ceiling broke apart, sending debris onto the attackers. Several were trapped. The rest fled into the darkness, defeated for now. The cave was quiet again. Jackson wiped sweat from his brow. "That was close," he said. Thala looked at him, eyes serious. "You fought well." Jackson shrugged. "I did what I had to. I'm not a warrior, but I won't run." Miri smiled. "You surprised us all." Zira sat down, exhausted. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad you're here." They turned back to the altar. The sacred ceremony could not be delayed. The four stood in a circle around a pool of glowing water. Each placed a hand in the pool. The water shimmered, and the symbols on the cave walls brightened. An ancient voice echoed in their minds. "You who bind together with trust and courage, your bond will change the stars." Jackson looked at the Granddaughters. He saw strength, wisdom, and fire. They saw hope, kindness, and resilience. After the ritual, the group returned to the palace. Jackson felt a new weight on his shoulders. Not a burden, but a responsibility. The marriage was no longer a forced sentence. It was a promise. But the galaxy did not rest. The House of Sareth's attack was only the beginning. In the shadows, powerful enemies gathered. They whispered plans to stop the human and the Granddaughters, because if the Union succeeded, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift forever. That evening, Jackson sat with Thala on the palace balcony, looking out over the glowing jungle. "Do you believe this will work?" he asked. Thala stared at the stars. "It must, for the future of our people." Jackson nodded. "I don't know much about your world, but I want to learn." Thala smiled faintly. "Then you are more ready than most." In another part of the palace, Miri and Zyra worked on a device. "We need better defenses," Miri said. "If they attack again, we must be ready." Zyra tapped the screen. "Maybe something unexpected." Miri laughed. "Leave it to you to think of surprises." The next morning, the Consul summoned Jackson. "My friend," Virith said, his golden eyes sharp, "you have proven your courage and loyalty." Jackson bowed his head respectfully. "The galaxy watches you now. Some will try to break this alliance. I'm ready, Jackson said. The consul nodded. Good. Tomorrow we will hold the official wedding. The galaxy will see our union. Jackson felt a mix of fear and hope. He was no longer just a mechanic from Earth. He was a part of something greater. As night fell, Jackson looked at the stars again. He thought of Earth, his home. He thought of the toast he missed, and he thought of 3 alien granddaughters who had become more than family. He smiled. The wedding would change everything. The great hall of the consul's flagship was alive with light and sound. Crystal chandeliers floated in midair, casting colorful beams over thousands of guests from all over the galaxy. Alien species of every shape and size filled the space: diplomats, warriors, nobles, and curious onlookers from far and wide. Jackson Reed stood at the center, dressed in a suit made from Earth fabric but tailored with Veritari elegance. He adjusted his tie nervously. This was not just any wedding. This was a symbol, one that could change the future of 2 worlds forever. The 3 granddaughters stood on either side of Jackson. Thala wore armor decorated with glowing runes. Her eyes shone with pride and determination. Miri wore a gown, embedded with tiny lights that looked like stars. She clutched a small gadget in her hand, a reminder of her sharp mind. Zara wore a playful, colorful dress that sparkled and moved like liquid. Her bright smile was impossible to miss. Jackson looked at them, feeling a mix of awe and gratitude. These women had changed his life in ways he never expected. The consul, golden eyes blazing, stepped forward to speak. Friends, citizens of the galaxy, and honored guests. Today we witness a union not born of tradition alone, but of courage, respect, and hope. Earth and the Veritari Empire join hands. Through this marriage, peace and friendship shall grow. The crowd erupted in cheers. Jackson cleared his throat. Thank you all. I'm just a simple human from Earth. I never imagined I'd be here, marrying 3 incredible women from a world so different from mine. But I promise to learn, to protect, and to honor this bond. Together, we will face whatever the future holds. The granddaughters stepped forward one by one to give their vows. Thala's voice was strong and clear. Jackson Reed, you have proven yourself in battle and spirit. I vow to stand by your side, fierce and unyielding. Miri's voice was softer, but filled with certainty. I vow to share my knowledge, to build a future with you, and to never stop seeking truth. Zyra laughed lightly. And I vow to keep life interesting, to make you laugh, and to never let you forget that joy matters, even in the darkest times. Jackson smiled wider than ever. Suddenly, alarms blared through the hall. A shadow moved among the guests. The rival house of Sareth was not done. A group of armed soldiers burst into the room, weapons glowing with deadly energy. "Stop the wedding!" their leader shouted. "This union will destroy the balance of power." Guards rushed forward, but the attackers were fast and fierce. Jackson barely had time to think. He saw Thala leap into battle, blades flashing like lightning. Miri activated a force shield around the granddaughters. Zyra dashed among the attackers, throwing stun grenades with perfect aim. Jackson grabbed a fallen energy staff and fought alongside them. His heart pounded. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was part of this family now. The battle raged across the great hall. Guests screamed and ducked for cover. Jackson dodged a blast and charged forward. He swung the energy staff with all his might, knocking an attacker to the ground. Thala fought, like a warrior born for battle. Miri's shields protected them from the worst of the energy beams. Zira's speed and tricks confused the enemy at every turn. Finally, the attackers were pushed back. The leader tried to flee, but Jackson caught him with a well-aimed throw. The guards quickly restrained the remaining soldiers. The consul's voice boomed. "This wedding will not be stopped by fear or violence. With the attackers defeated, calm returned. The crowd cheered, louder than before. Jackson turned to the granddaughters. "Are you ready to finish this?" he asked. They nodded. The ceremony resumed. An ancient Veritari priest stepped forward and raised his hands. "By the power of the stars and the bonds you have forged, I declare you united as one family, across worlds, across cultures, across species." The crowd erupted again in celebration. Jackson looked at Thala, Miri, and Zira. He saw not just brides, he saw partners, he saw friends. Later, as the celebrations continued, Jackson found a quiet moment with the granddaughters. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" Zira asked, smiling. "For believing in me, for fighting for this." Thala placed her hand on his shoulder. "You earned it," Miri nodded. "We all did, together." In the days that followed, the galaxy buzzed with news. The wedding was called the event of the century. It inspired peace talks and alliances. Jackson and his new family traveled to Earth and Veritari worlds, sharing stories and learning from each other. One evening, back on Earth, Jackson stood in his small kitchen. He placed a slice of toast in the toaster. As the bread browned and popped, he smiled. The simple things mattered. Because sometimes the smallest acts can change the stars.